Well, I think we can officially begin. Um, as mentioned, I just want to welcome you to our webinar on how to read and use your strategic feedback report. I believe all of you, our cities, have already received it from your national offices. So thank you very much for being here. And then we start. If we can go to the next slide. Yes, so just to mention, I'm Andrea Cantillo. I'm one of the facilitators from BVF who is going to be here today. I'm part of the OPCC global team. We also have City Friberg, also part of BVF cities, part of the technical team, and we're going to have a panel in which we're going to have Pelin from the city of Istanbul and Björn from Sustainability Advantage, who's also a senior climate advisor to BVF. For the purpose and also agenda of this webinar, we really want to give you, our cities, behind the scenes of the strategic feedback report, have a walk through it, but then also give you inspiration on how you can use it, how other cities have used it, and then maybe also, how it can help you in your climate action, basically. And then, of course, we want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. So we will do all of those in that order just after an introduction. But before we go into the introduction, sorry, Zoom just wrote me something. Before the introduction, we can go to the next slide, just to some housekeeping rules. Yes, so as I mentioned before, if you could please change your name here in Zoom so we know what city you're coming from. Also, please remember to keep yourself muted if you're not speaking. And we have interpretation in Turkish, which you find just below your Zoom menu. You have a little globe, and then you can click on there, Turkish or English, because for our panel, our city guest is going to be speaking in Turkish. So for the rest, it's good that you also know that we have that option for you to click English to be able to listen in. And if I could ask our colleagues, Tanieli and Sirka, to write this in Turkish in the channel. So our guests also know to join the channel, that would be great. And please feel free to use the chat. You're very, very invited to use it, to share your thoughts and comments. There are no stupid questions at all. And most importantly, open your strategic feedback report so you can walk through it while we go through it ourselves as well in the webinar. So now for the next slide. For introduction, we of course wanted to remind why we are here, why we're working in climate change. We have seen that 2023 was the warmest year on record. We actually had a year of above 1.5 degrees Celsius, which, well, it's not great, but that is why we're working, so we don't end up surpassing that for many years and then end up exceeding the climate goal of the Paris Agreement. Luckily, if we go to the next slide, we are seeing some solutions happening already, some advancements to drive us in the right direction. Like, for example, we have more renewable energy capacity right now in the world, around 50% more we earned. And then we see also that the US, for example, has reduced 1.9% of their emissions while also achieving economic growth. And then also that the EU pumped out 8% less of CO2 from fossil fuel burning in 2022 than in comparison to 2022. Yes, and then bringing it even more to our topic and to us in the next slide, we see how this climate arena, this global climate arena, has been recognizing even more what we all already knew, which is just awesome to see the development of that. But the fact that cities are crucial in this task, they are crucial for the world to achieve the 1.5 alignment target or goal. So, for example, in COP28, we saw we saw that the presidency-led local climate action summit. We had the CHAMP pledge, which basically tells us or goes for national governments to work with subnational governments for their NDCs, for their plans, and for all the implementation around climate action, which is very, very great. And then in the global stock take, which is what was being negotiated in COP28, we also saw the role of an active engagement of non-party stakeholders. And as well, we have seen from the UNFCCC, we saw a report of Integrity Matters that looks to increase ambition and transparency for cities. And then we're very happy because one of our tech team members, Tabare, he's part of that working group that the UNFCCC put together in order to drive these recommendations for cities. Yes, and then also just to mention that the IPCC will draft as well a special report on how cities should work in climate change and their role in it. So if we just go forward, just want to mention that exactly this is what we want to do. This is what we want to see. We want more climate action from cities. This is what we're striving for in the One Planet City Challenge, and we're very happy that we have more than 350 cities in this round from more than 70 countries. And then more than 900 cities have joined us since the start. I will just mention in the next slide, we can see that right now, this is our cycle for the OPCC. Our cities have gone through submitting data, and now we have done the assessment and feedback, and that is why you have gotten your strategic feedback report. And then from that, if we go to the next slide, we can see this vision and impact and how our cities are behaving in this matter with our new method. But I believe with that, I will leave you to Siri, who is going to go through our report in a more detailed manner.
Thank you, Andrea. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Siri Friberg Guslan, and in this presentation, we will look at how to read your strategic feedback report. And if at any point you have any questions or comments, I warmly welcome and encourage you to put those in the chat, and then my brilliant tech colleague Gara will respond to you there. So without any further ado, let's get started. So the first question we might ask ourselves is, why do we have a strategic feedback report? And the main purpose of the report is to help you recognize what your city or local government is doing well, but also, and more importantly, highlight what opportunities your city has to improve. And in the report, we do this by providing you with an overview of your climate action that highlights both your strengths, but also your weaknesses. Furthermore, the report can also help you create compelling arguments to gain support for strengthening action. And finally, as the report sheds light not only on the areas of improvement, but also on what you're doing well, it can help you get recognition for those efforts and inspire other cities to follow. Now, how do we produce this feedback? In the OPCC, we use a collection of methods and criteria that we call the OPCC Assessment Framework. And we use this framework to measure your city's level of vision and your city's level of impact. So where you want to go and how you plan to get there. Now, the framework consists of 3 components. First of all, the data integrity diagnosis, which is what we used to produce your GAPS report. The scoring criteria, which is what we use to quantitatively evaluate your city's vision and impact. And the complementary methods, which is what we use to generate the prospective feedback. And I will talk a bit more about these complementary methods later when we look at the report more in detail. But if you want to take a closer look at all the components of the framework, which I would of course warmly recommend that you do, You can find a detailed description of these in the technical document that is located on our website. And I believe that my colleague will share a link to this document in the chat as well. Now, for today's session, we will focus on the following elements of the report: your vision and impact, your city's climate journey steps, the assessment of your hazards and greenhouse gas emissions, your targets and actions, and finally, some prospective recommendations to your climate action. So let's have a look. In your reports on page 5, we have a graph showing the overall results of the assessment of your city. And you can use this graph to see how strong and well-balanced your goals and actions are. Furthermore, if we take a closer look, and I hope you can see them on your screens, there are these several small gray crosses, and these crosses represent other participants from your country. So you can also use the graph to get an idea of how your efforts compare to other cities and to gain an awareness of what the climate leadership picture looks like in your country. Moving on to pages 6 and 7, we have the climate journey steps. I'm just going to click once more. And this is a concept that we have borrowed from GCOM to try and provide more clarity around which steps or stages that cities should follow to improve their climate action. So let's take a look at the different steps. The first step is to assess your greenhouse gas emissions and identify the hazards that your cities face. Then, when we have that overview in place, we can move on to step 2. And this is where we set mitigation targets to reduce the calculated emissions and adaptation goals to address the identified risks. And once we've set the targets and goals, we can move on to step 3. And this is where we develop action plans directed towards achieving the targets and goals that we set in the previous stage. Then in step 4, we implement the strategies and actions that we identified in the plans. And then finally, in step 5, we monitor to keep track of our progress and to adapt our plans as needed. And in your report, these climate journey steps are visualized on page 7. And in the tree diagram, this is called a tree diagram, you can see the aggregated results of your city per journey step. And rather than looking at the specific scores here, what we would encourage you to do is to interpret the results in terms of the opportunities that it offers, whether it's in the design stage, implementation stage, monitoring stage. Use the diagram to help you prioritize where to direct your efforts. Moving on to risks and emissions. So on page 8, we have 8 different icons that visualize what elements should be included in a city's CRVA, or Climate Risk and Vulnerability Assessment. And the elements that you have included will be colored in this green or teal color. But then again, maybe of more interest are the gray or blank elements, because these are the ones that point you to other areas of opportunities that you can include in your assessment as you move forward with your work. And on page 9, there is a Sankey diagram that illustrates how your reported greenhouse gas emissions are distributed across sectors and scopes of emissions. And here we encourage that you analyze the graph to identify what areas might be in need of stronger climate targets and what strategies are more relevant to reduce your emissions. Now, I'm going to go one back. So as part of the assessment, we also revise your city's adaptation goals, mitigation targets, and your energy access and poverty targets, which you can find on pages 10 to 12 in your report. And now I can click. So with regards to the mitigation targets, we analyze how your targets compare to the Paris Agreement's most ambitious target of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. And to do this, we use the OPCC 1.5 degree alignment method. And this is a method recognized by the Science Based Targets Network, and it's actually also one of the components of the complementary methods that I mentioned earlier. And on page 11 in your report, this graph tells you how close to or how far away from you are from the benchmarks defined by the OPCC method. Then, let's see, on page 12, there is a bar chart that compares your total greenhouse gas emissions in yellow versus your planned greenhouse gas emissions reductions marked in gray across different sectors. And this graph can help you identify which areas need stronger climate action, and it can therefore help you develop a mitigation action plan to reduce the gap between your targets and your emissions. Finally, pages 13 to 16 in the report includes the prospective potential actions that cities can take, both related to mitigation and adaptation. And on page 13, there is a table showing potential mitigation actions for your city. And which actions we have suggested depends on two things. First, it depends on your city's physical characteristics and physical characteristics. And second, it depends on the regional context of your city. And based on this information, we suggest strategies inspired by the IPCC AR6 report that can lead to the greatest positive cascading effects in your city. And actually also, if you click in the report on the suggested actions, you can see some examples from other cities. Then, with regards to adaptation, we have a threefold table. And the first column looks at what level of risk your reported hazards pose today and what level of risk they are expected to pose in the future, with a traffic light coding system to signal which risks have a greater urgency. The second column in this table looks at how these hazards are currently being addressed today. And then the third column suggests what actions can be applied to address them in the future. And these suggestions are based on other cities' similar experience with those hazards in the region. Yes, and again, if you want to have a closer look at either the complementary methods that we went through now or any of the other components of the OPCC assessment framework, you can find all of the details in the technical document that I mentioned earlier that you can find on our website and that my colleague shared in the chat. So with this, we have reached the end of my presentation. Please keep posting any questions in the chat. Gara and myself will respond to you there. And yeah, thanks for your attention. And I give the word back to you, Andrea.
Yes, thank you, Siri, for that walkthrough of the report. We saw already some questions in the chat, so please keep them coming. And then this gives us time to go to our next section of the webinar, which is our panel. So I first want to invite and say thank you to Pelin from the city of Istanbul for joining us. Thank you very, very much for coming here. And as part of the panel, we will also have Bjorn from Sustainable Advantage and Senior Climate Advisor to WWF. So I'm just adding spotlights to you guys, and I think we can go out of the presentation for now as we will be just speaking among ourselves. And I think just since we're going now out from this excellent presentation of City, I want to first ask you, Bjorn, because you know a little bit more of the behind the scenes as well of what happened with the report. So under that knowledge that you have, what has struck you more about how it was built? Like what might give cities what would you say will give cities the confidence to use the report from how it has been created?
Right. Thank you for that question, Andrea, and thank you for inviting me. And hello, Pelin. Nice to be with you all in this panel and this webinar. I have a background as a city climate strategist myself. I've been working in Stockholm and Uppsala for about 20 years, and being part of the OPCC for maybe, well, since the beginning, really, 2011. And I have seen how this whole challenge has developed so much over the years, and particularly over the last rounds, it's really has flourished. And I think that the key point to the value for cities to participate in the challenge and receiving this feedback report is that it's individual. It is to each city, and every city get it at whatever stage of their climate journey they are. They will receive an individual feedback. And I think that is also, I think it's also important that it is the VWWF who do this, because this gives a climate strategist like me, I used to be, an outside voice, a third-party voice, a credible third-party voice to say that, well, this is how it looks, your work, and here is your improvement areas, and here is where you do really good, and here is an explanation of what you can do more. So I think that's really good in general. And secondly, I think it's extremely rich in content. So there is a lot of it. It's actually everything you need to know about climate strategic work in a nutshell. It's all, you know, compressed from city experience, from city experts around the world, from the IPCC. And I think that this year it's even richer. And I think maybe we can get back to that, but I think also one new feature that we could have a look at is the strategy advices for climate mitigation actions. That is taken, the basis is taken from the IPCC reports in 2022. Yeah, so I think it's a whole universe there.
Nice. Well, now I'm very curious on what you're saying of this whole universe. And then maybe a little bit more. Can you just share, did you just how do you say this, just nudge a little bit there or poke into the strategy advices on the IPCC? Is there anything else maybe that can be said in there? Or
well, let me think about that, and let's invite.
Sorry.
I'd like to hear Pauline also. What is your view on?
Oh, I think, did I lose the last bit you said, Bjorn? Or like, was it just me, or was it more people? But well, in the meantime, I can, yes, definitely. Very nice to have you here, Pelin, as mentioned. And as Bjorn also had just mentioned, the OPCC has been going for many years now. And then we know that Istanbul has also participated in our previous rounds, and especially our previous round. And we know from our national office that you've had very nice development since this last round. So I just want to ask you, from the last round, maybe what lessons did you learn from the strategic feedback report, or what did you get from me to help you in the work that you've been doing over these years?
Öncelikle herkese merhabalar.
First of all, hello everyone. I'd like to thank WWF for creating the space in this platform for us to share our experiences. Having feedback regarding the strategic document is a great opportunity for us. Our CDP reporting scoring shows a rising trend. It's a linear rise in 2019, in 2020, in C20, in we had a good accomplishment from C to B and from B to A. And we created a wonderful team, and I have my teammates with me to support me. And as we were doing this reporting, our primary motivation was to find out how the cities that got an A were doing it, how they were making it, and we wanted to improve the current status. And last year, from the feedback report, we found out about our areas for improvement. So first, we focused on the improvement of these areas, and then we wanted to further our better points, and we wanted to create a reflection of this on the report as well. But of course, the Greater Municipality of Istanbul is rather huge, and we have approximately 100,000 employees. So the tasks that are done by each sectoral unit had to have its own goals, and in terms of adaptation and mitigation, their assignments and their mandates were really diverse. So first we needed to find out about what we could do with these teams. We rolled out the areas for improvement with our teams, and the organization of 100,000 people had to pass each role on every individual, and this was the success of the city and the organization itself, and we made them embrace this. We held meetings to discuss how we could make further progress. We made assessments all together. And in the feedback report, we see regarding the energy industry a huge gap. It was a severe issue. And as a city, as the Greater Municipality of Istanbul, we would have to focus on our fields of mandate, because there are also areas that are managed by the central government. So as IBB, as the Metropolitan Municipality, we had to find out what we could do in the energy industry and how we could accelerate the improvements in the energy sector. So that's what we did, and we created an organizational inventory. We decided to make a calculation, a diverse one, and this would be part of the organizational bit, and we're planning to create a report on this in the coming years. And also we accelerated the actions for energy savings in buildings in our facilities, and we encouraged that. Our mitigation goals were already reported in the past, but this time it was more detailed, and we also reported our action steps in a sectoral sense, in a very diverse fashion. The best feedback from this report to us was that we were motivated to further increase our capacity as an organization. We had the chance to speak with each unit individually, and internally we had already assigned some people in charge of climate matters. And these people in charge, some of them had no information about these reports. So we had to inform them about the reporting process. And we would also need to find a better way to create a report that reflected all the facts in a detailed fashion. So this feedback we received was really valuable to us. And next year, we will continue doing the same, and the actions and the questions in the report will be handled in a more comprehensive fashion, and we will be even more motivated.
Oh, this is so great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Well, it's great that you were able to identify gaps, that you were able to speak more with people within the municipality to strengthen your work. I mean, it sounds great. I'm already very excited about it. Can I ask you one follow-up question to what you said? And I also want to invite Bjorn, maybe you have things to add up to what Pelin mentioned, but you mentioned that you were able to, it invited you to speak within the municipality with more people on climate matters and how to report. Can you just, I don't know, maybe share with your colleagues here that are all in the city arena and then maybe in similar roles, some tips on how to invite for those aspects, and maybe what helped you from the report to do that as well, if so?
Thank you so much for the question. I can summarize as follows. As I said, It's a huge family. Ours is a huge family. So our facilitators were the climate champions from each unit, from social sciences, from energy, waste management. There are so many different levels in which we have our sectoral representatives. And so we sat with them around a table and we discussed with them how important this reporting was for the city, how big a source of motivation it was for us. And then we received some positive feedback in that, well, this is actually, there are some disadvantages that are caused by being such a big family. Sometimes we are not well informed about all the steps taken in each unit. So in order to enhance our communication, we told units that we were making reporting to this international platform. So we showed them that what they were doing was being showcased in an international platform. And knowing this was a huge motivation for them. And we planned focus group meetings, and with them, we got together online and offline. And we also discussed via email the questions that were in the report. We gave them further information in a detailed fashion about what we wanted and the intersections with climate, what they did and how it was related to climate. There were some units that were feeling rather remote to climate. For instance, social services unit, they thought that they were not related with any climate affairs. And we informed them that disadvantaged groups could be very valuable when it came to climate change mitigation and adaptation. And we discussed all the aspects with them in our meeting so that they could understand what they did would overlap with what we did, and they would go hand in hand. So my colleagues and everyone in the local administration are now well informed that they can actually do this, they can make it happen. And all the parts of our family can be hugely motivated, they know now. And they can also see the feedback. And I can wholeheartedly share with you the fact that they're all much more motivated now.
Oh, how great. This sounds very, very exciting. It sounds like great work. Bjorn, I invite you if you want to mention or talk anything around what Pelin said, but also at the same time invite you to maybe share from your view as well, what other recommendations you would give for a city on how to use the strategic feedback report, what aspects maybe they should be looking at.
I think I would like to congratulate Pelin and Izmir to it looks like a really great work involving so many colleagues and departments and so on. I think you set an example of really how to use the report, the feedback report, and the work itself, the whole thing. I think that's something to learn from and inspire from other cities. I think as a general idea, the report is made, as I see it, in a very nice layout way and infographics and graphs, so with the idea that it should be easy to show and communicate and center a dialogue around. But I would really encourage all cities to use it for communication with your colleagues, your team and colleagues and climate champions in department and things like that. But also show it to your political level. Show the main pages like your vision and impact. Where are you compared to other cities? Where are you in your journey? How strong are you in your journey? And of course, most important for the political level, do we have a fair climate mitigation target in line with the Paris Agreement, or do we not have it? Do we need to sharpen to set the target for the community? So I think really encourage. I can hear sometimes from my Swedish cities fellows that they keep it within the city administration, but show it for the political level, and show it and talk to it also with your stakeholders that you collaborate with. Because this is also a way to encourage companies, organizations, people to make further steps and so on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, I see that we are connecting dots here on your experience Pelin in Istanbul, and also from what you're saying, Bjorn, on the opportunity that it gives to truly share around. So as I'm just repeating what you just mentioned, Bjorn, but just the importance and the opportunity that it gives to show the work that is being done or that needs to be done in another manner. Due to the graphics and so on. So that is great. And then also, of course, what you mentioned, Pelin, of being able to see maybe where work was needed, like, for example, in the energy aspect for you guys. I'm a little bit aware of time now. So I will just want to ask if any of you have anything final thing that you would want to share or say about how the use and so of the report, and if not, maybe we go to the questions. But please do take the word if there is anything else from your side.
Ben bir şey eklemek istiyorum
I'd
bu
like to
noktada.
make a contribution at this point.
İklim eylemlerinin uygulanmasında
In the implementation
siyasi
of the climate
liderliğin
actions,
önemine de
the importance
biraz
of
değinmek
political will
istiyorum.
is very
Biz İstanbul
vivid,
Büyükşehir
actually.
Belediyesi
As
olarak
the
yeşil,
Istanbul
adil ve
Metropolitan
yaratıcı İstanbul
Municipality,
vizyonuyla
we have a
bu
vision
çalışmalara başladık
of a green
aslında.
and
Bu
creative
noktada
Istanbul, a fair
yöneticilerin
Istanbul.
bu vizyonun devamında
At this point, our
hareket
managers
etmesi
or
bizim
the senior
eylemlere
management
ulaşmamızda
need
çok
to
önemli
continue
bir
with this vision.
başlık
If
olarak
not,
geçiyor.
of course, we
Biz
won't be
bu
able to
vizyon
perform these
kapsamında
actions
yeşil
as we want. So within the
yeşil şehir
scope
planı,
of this
sürdürülebilir
vision,
eylem ve
we
iklim
created a
değişikliği
green
planı
city
ve
plan,
karbon
sustainable
nötr
city plan,
şehirler
and
taahhüdüne
carbon
başlamış bir
neutral
şehir olarak bunu
cities
söyleyebilirim ki siz bunu eğer en
commitment.
yüksekten
So we have
bir hedef
already
olarak
become part of
koyduğunuzda
these
emin
documents.
olun sonrası
Why am I
bu
telling
hedefler
this?
doğrultusunda
When
çok
you
daha
put
hızlı bir
these targets
şekilde
at the
geliyor.
highest level
Bu
possible in your
noktada biz
organization, from the senior management
aldığımız bu
level,
seneki
then the
ALAP
rest will follow.
puanının da
And we
bir
received score
politik
A
taahhütler
this year, for
noktasında
instance,
zaten geri
and
bildirim strateji planında da
this is
bize
the result
bu
of the political
bildirilmişti.
commitment.
Politik
This
taahhütler
was
noktasında çok
given
yüksek
as
bir
a
puan
feedback
aldık.
to us in the
Bunu
strategic
vizyon olarak
plan, in the
geliştirip
strategic document.
sonrasında bu raporlama
So
süreci,
our
eylemleri
senior management got
geliştirip
involved.
birbirini takip
And
eden bir
of
zincir
course,
noktasında
when the
devam
senior
ediyor. Bunu son
management was
olarak
involved,
belirtmek istedim.
the action
Teşekkür ederim.
plan was prepared so easily. This is just what I wanted to share.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent remark to make about the importance, and also very related to what Björn was sharing on, also putting it out there to political, to the higher political level or higher management. I think I will move us on now to the Q&A to see if maybe our cities have any questions, but thank you so much again, Pelin and Björn, for sharing your experiences and your views. Very, very inspiring. And just congrats on all the work that is being done. I'm left with a lot of energy. I will just remove the spotlight from all of us and then open the floor for everyone. Please, if there are any questions to maybe that you have for our city guests, for our panel, or in terms of your reports on how the report was built and so on.
Andrea, I could perhaps just share from the chat that there are some questions related to if you don't see data in the report, like graphs are missing or the data is not complete, how should you interpret that and how should you work when that is the case to still be able to use the report and so on?
Great question. Maybe we can give that question to Gara and Björn, who would want to take it.
I can contribute with one piece, and that is in October, all cities, if you I hope all cities, most cities, almost most cities should have received the so-called gap report, and here are very much the details on your your reporting. And there is where you can get a first understanding of how to report, do enough reporting so that it will be able to show something back in your feedback report, that there are enough data points or reporting points. So that is the first, and as we advise you to get in contact also with your national office or the help desk of OPCC to explore further.
Would you add anything to that, Gara? Or?
No, I think that's an excellent response. So I don't think I can add anything.
Awesome. Do we have, I just wanted to share that there were some questions about what AFOLU and IPPU means. So maybe everyone has read the answers already in the chat, but good to mention here as well. That AFOLU means agriculture, forestry, and other land use, and IPPU makes reference to industrial processes and product use. Yes. Do you see maybe other questions, Sabina, in the chat you have seen to share?
Yes, there are lots of activity here, and don't be shy, speak up. I can see one question here. So if you have traffic going through the city, this is a city from Sweden. We have traffic going through the city where we do not have control. How are these types of questions handled in your assessment?
I can give you another answer. Not how it is handled, but how should we look upon as a city questions that are outside our mandate. And I think the whole idea with this, with the One Planet City Challenge, the main idea is to talk about the geographical area, the community as such. And I think the whole idea is that we encourage, and I encourage, all cities, councils, the political level, to take targets, mitigation targets, for the whole of the community. And that means that because it is so important that the political level sets a target for the community, say, this is what we need to do together, and then show political leadership and inviting everybody, all stakeholders and cities, to work for that target. So that is the important thing. And to show that well, we have some things to do more and to push for that. So it's not, nobody's holding a city accountable for not being able to do something about through traffic. But it is very important to show, and the report, the feedback report, based on your data, show the total of your emissions as you as a community need to address somehow, cooperating with government, etc. and so on. And this is the same for all cities, and nobody expects the city council and city administration to do everything.
Thank you, Björn, for that. I think we had a question around targets in the chat. So maybe I will just give the word to Gara to address this question from Lisanda in terms of the methodologies of the target.
Sure. I think if I quickly read the question, which is interested in knowing the consultation between partners or role players of the SBT framework, the Science-Based Targets framework. So maybe I can just comment that there are different methodologies used for setting greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, and some of them including C40 deadline 2020, and then as part of the OPCC assessment framework, we focus on the OPCC 1.5 degree alignment method. And sometimes due to the different approaches and assumptions that the different methods take, some of the results might look slightly different. And what we encourage from our, oops, sorry, some message came up from Zoom. What we encourage from our side, from WWF, is that the OPCC 1.5 alignment method gives us benchmarks for guidance. So it's not sort of a yes or no answer, or it's not a very black and white sort of assessment, but rather where should we be aiming towards from a method based in science. So and of course, the more methods that we have, the more stronger that our analysis can be, and probably it's good to keep different results in mind. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. And yes, thank you, Lisandra.
Thank you for that, Cara. Sabina wrote very, very good that you wrote this, Sabina. Thank you for doing that. But I will just repeat it for people that if you want to take the question, you're also welcome to raise your hand, and then we will give you the word. But Sabina, do you see maybe other questions to bring up here?
Let's see. Well, I think a general question that maybe is interesting to Pelin and Björn, maybe, and everyone here. Do you think that there are any special aspects of the feedback report that is especially important or relevant for the current climate emergency situation for your work? So that something that you have seen that is especially important or interesting right now? Maybe over to Björn first, or
I think Pelin maybe is
yeah, Pelin.
Pelin, are you? I think you started to say something. Yes,
Evet.
please.
Evet.
Yes, I was about
Şu
to
noktada
say
bir
something.
ekleme yapabilirim
Well,
belki.
I think I
Azaltım
can
hedeflerine
say the
yönelik
following.
sektörel anlamdaki geri bildirimler bizim
The
için çok kıymetli
feedback
oldu.
at sector level for the
Özellikle
mitigation
bahsettiğim
targets,
gibi
that was very
enerji
helpful to us,
konusunda
especially in the energy
azaltım
area.
hedeflerinin az
Our
önce konusu
mitigation
geçti,
targets, we
ve
talked
yetki
about
alanı
this.
dışında kalan kısımlara yönelik
Of course, we have a
bildirimler bizim
mandate
için çok kıymetli
and
oldu.
we have
O
the scope
noktada
outside of our mandate. So we received feedback
hedefi
on both of
sağlamak
them, and that was
açısından
very helpful.
sektörel azaltım
And
eylemlerine yönelik geri bildirimler
the sectoral
öncelikli olarak
mitigation
bizim
targets, the
odaklandığımız
feedback
kısımlar
related to
oldu.
that, was the main focus area for us in the report.
I could add, I think I really would like to highlight and push for page 13, where all cities will find recommended mitigation strategies that are tailored to your cities in terms of how dense it is or not, and how rapid your population increase or decrease is. Here, WWF has condensated recommended mitigation strategies from the IPCC reports. And I think here this is a new feature of the feedback report, and you can really find a lot of inspiration on what should we focus on and what are the main potential actions. And if you point, they are linked, so they will be a link to a site with inspirational examples from cities around the world. And I know that WWF really like to encourage all cities to come up with more ideas and examples, because I think this is also a community where you can share and get, you know, ideas and steal with proud and do the same. This worked for us, maybe it works for you. I think this is really somewhere where we can chip in our experiences and put up our own actions and plans and things that we have done to help other cities. So this is a really a page for community building of actions. Thank you.
That is a great highlight, Björn. Thank you for making reference to our urban solutions and inviting cities to also share them.
Yeah, urban solutions page on panda.org /OPCC, I believe. Is it like that? Yeah.
Maybe we can have someone share it in the chat.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Björn, for that. I see, Samuel, that you have your hand up, so please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrea. And I think I just want to thank you, the OPCC team, for the reports that you've actually given us. And the feedback is spot on for most of the things that we've realized us from Wellington. By the way, I'm in Wellington in New Zealand. I think the report is spot on in our space. My concern, though, is twofold. You've done very well in highlighting the challenges that the data issues that we have and the actions that we need to take. I would have loved in this feedback report also a bit of areas that highlight some of the challenges that we kind of highlighted in the report. And what do I mean by that? The challenges that we are facing are mostly in the areas of data. And I think methodologies, streamlining those and standardizing those, or essentially just gaining the best practice that we need. Then the third part is issues around governance. And it will be quite critical. And this is where my question is really, what kind of support can this platform provide for cities in those areas, either through exchange programs or anything that we can do in terms of city to city peer, mechanism of some kind, so that at least we can be able to share our ideas and our experiences and be able to see. One other issue that's just quite interesting is just the issue of setting targets. We've got the science-based targets and all these elements done, but the methodology is another thing altogether that we begin to need to get down to. I'll end there for now, but thank you again. The report has really been helpful.
Thank you so much, Samuel, and so nice to see you. We've been writing by email for several months, so nice to put a face. Yeah. I'll just
Same
say
here.
that.
Same here.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. Those are very interesting questions and very good ones. I will dare to go ahead myself and answer them, but please, if someone is sharing their screen. So thank you. I just go ahead and answer very quickly, and actually very in line with what we were going to say next. And it is that the different national offices are putting together different engagement initiatives. And we will communicate this to the cities. The national offices will do so because we definitely would like to give that opportunity for cities to have this peer-to-peer learning. And that's where the urban solutions also comes from, for cities to be able to share what they've done. And as Björn mentioned, for others to steal with pride. We do understand that speaking to each other also brings another kind of opportunity. So we also would want to do that, definitely. And in terms of setting targets, we are having some national offices, the core team for some cities as well, where we have had and probably will have a coaching session in terms of that to help the cities strengthen the targets that they have and how to think about the methodology. I will sadly now close the Q&A. If Siri, you can help me share the slides again, but just keeping in mind the time of people, we will save the chat, and if anything was left unanswered, we will try to answer from our side, give your question to your national offices or to the OPCC help desk. So do keep them coming there. I think we want to go to the next to last, second to last slide, Siri. And that one, yes, thank you. So I've already shared what is up next in the OPCC in terms of your national offices having more engagement opportunities. But also when we go back into our 2-year cycle, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have the assessment and feedback right now, and now we're moving into the jury meetings. So from our assessment and feedback, some cities have been or are being selected to be shortlisted. And those shortlisted cities will go to the jury meetings to decide who would be national winners or global finalists. And then from those who will be taken into account to be one of our 2 global winners. Yes, and your national offices will get back to you on who those shortlisted cities are. And of course, yeah. So that's it from that side. And then we just want to invite you to please answer to a survey right here, to a poll. It's anonymous. So please go ahead and answer it. You should have it in your screen right now. We're asking you after this webinar, I understand how the report can support us in accelerating climate action. Please answer if you agree or not. And from the parts of the report, which ones are more interesting to you. This is an anonymous survey, just so you know. But if you could just take some minutes before we close. And then while you're doing that, I will just thank you very much for being part of this webinar. Thank you very much for our panelists and for all your very excellent questions. Yes. So we'll just leave the survey out there for some minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Thank you, everyone. I see that some are saying thank you and goodbye. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you have a great day. And I'll also just take the chance to thank our excellent interpreters for helping us hold this panel in such a good manner. I believe we won't have more answers right now.